turn that on for the router, we're going to type service password dash encryption. That's also done in global configuration mode. I may go ahead and show you a couple of things with step 2 to activate the interfaces of building 1. We have an addressing table up here. Building 1 has 2 interfaces. They're gigabit Ethernet interfaces. Gig 00 and Gig 01, they have 2 different addresses and 2 different masks. They connect to 2 different networks. So to set up an interface and to activate it, we are going to do the Gig 00 interface first. So we will say, while we're in global configuration mode, we have to go into interface configuration mode, and we have to tell it which interface we're going to configure. So I'll type interface space G0/0. Notice that changes my prompt to say config-if. That puts us in interface config mode, which means that these commands are only going to apply to this one piece or part of the router, not to the entire router, just to this particular interface. We'll give it an IP address, which is 10.1.0.254, and then the subnet mask, and then we press enter. The interface is not activated just because you give it an IP address. It also has to be turned on or activated, and we do that with the no shutdown command. Notice we get some feedback, and we press the enter key to go back to our prompt. This is letting us know we activated the interface. So you would do the same thing for gigabit 01. You would simply type interface, even though we're still in interface mode for the other one, the G00. If we type interface G0/1, that will switch us over to the gigabit Ethernet interface 01. And we would also give it an IP address here, subnet mask, and then we would use no shutdown to activate it. So I think I'll hold off for now on configuring the rest of this, but I will point out one thing. Once you configure the router and you configure the switch, when you go in to configure these devices, we have a host A. Oh, they give us the default gateway. Never mind. I thought this was one that made you figure out what the default gateway is. When you set up the the W1 wireless router that has, for the internet, it has a default gateway there. And for host A, to make sure that it can communicate with devices beyond its own local network, make sure you correctly set up the default gateway for host A to 10.1.0.254. So let's see if this gives you a little bit of help with the skills, the practice skills assessment for CTI 120 for networking essentials. And I'm going to go back to my browser. Notice that in chapter 8, that will show you a lot of these commands. For example, when you go to 851, 52, 53, and 54, that's where all of these commands are. So I'm going to show them to you. This is also where they explain these commands. Make sure that you click on the figure button. See, a lot of students may just read this and look at this picture here, but then forget to click on the 2. And here's where they show you the commands used to set up the switch. And this one actually gives you some practice. This is a simulator where you can practice some of those switch commands. And I'll show you where some of the other commands are for setting up the router. Starting in section 852, look at all of these. So make sure that you click on the different figure buttons to give you some hints on how to set up the commands for the router. So I'll give you this much to try to help you with this practice skills assessment, and again, this is for networking essentials. So be sure to mark these sections in your curriculum. This is really where the majority of those commands are discussed. So let me know if you have any other questions.